question 3 based on this following hypothetical. Carl and Homer entered into a valid written contract under which Carl agreed to build a house on Homer's lot. Homer agreed to pay $150,000 for the house. The contract stated Homer's duty to pay shall not arise unless and until the house is constructed in full compliance with the attached specifications. So now in question 3, assume that neither the written agreement nor the specifications mention the size of the water heater to be installed. Carl installed a 20-gallon heater. The size of the house reasonably required one of at least 40 gallons. After the house was completed, Homer noticed the size of the water heater and said he would not pay the contract price. Now, Carl is now entitled to recover from Homer A, nothing because his breach allows Homer to treat the contract as discharge, B, the full contract price because the agreement did not specify the size of the water heater, or C, the full contract price because he substantially performed the contract, or is it D, the full contract price minus Homer's damages for breach of Carl's implied obligation to install a heater of the size reasonably required? Okay, now I am pause it if you don't want me to say the answer yet, and I'm saying it now. The answer is D, the full contract price minus Homer's damages for breach. If you look at the contract, even though it says Homer's duty to pay shouldn't arise until the house is in full compliance with the attached specifications, over here it says that the specifications did not mention the size, but that the size was not a reasonable size. Thus, Homer's damages Homer can deduct damages for breach. Now, there's still a contract, and he's still going to have to pay. If you look at, this is my little outline that I have. It's a basic list. You'll look, what law are you going to look at? UCC or common law. And if it's a mixed contract with services and goods, you use the predominant factor test. And these are my little abbreviations. This is a common one. A lot of people have that. So we really do have a contract. So he's going to have to pay. The problem is there's a thing called a breach, a material or minor, and an implied. Now I'm going over this a little bit more in case you are writing an essay that has a similar hypothetical. I'm assuming when you take your exams you're going to be taking you're going to have to like elaborate on why the answer's right if you had an essay hypothetical like this. So you'd say material breach or minor breach, or you could even put versus. So if it's a material breach, yeah, he could if he didn't do something major, Homer could say, no, I'm not going to pay you. But this is something minor. Out of a $150,000 house and all the work done, he can recover damages, but he's still going to have to perform his end. Well, one of the defenses he has, he can now see the court would have remedies for and fill in the gaps for the fact that it's a reasonable. You need to have a reasonable water heater put in. The UCC uses gap fillers too, but so, you know, when you look at a contract, what are the conditions of the contract? You have an implied constructive condition That he's going to do it according to the custom and the need of the home. It's an implied condition. Um, you know, and the problem is, that he can't force him to swap it out, but he can get damages to this. Um, so this, I believe this is a service contract, by the way, even though there's construction. And here's a law I found supplying an omitted essential term. When the parties to a bargain sufficiently defined to be a contract have not agreed with respect to a term which is essential to the determination of their rights and duties, a term which is reasonable in the circumstances is supplied by the court. Now, that is it for question 3. I think this should be sufficient for understanding. If you want, if it seems like some of these things haven't quite, sunk in, you can just listen to it again. So, there is a contract here. Just go through your checklist. You should have a checklist that you use for your essays to have it memorized. And a lot of the essays will use fact patterns like this, and then they'll just ask you a question. They won't have multiple guesses, and you'll have to write everything down. So I'm going to move on to the next one. Thanks for stopping by.